And we are live. So, welcome to the conclusion of season one of Showtime's hit series and horror spectacular, Penny Dreadful. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, my partner in all of this, the Gorpho, who has been sticking it out with me episode by episode, but I sort of had an epiphany, and I was talking to Eric about this because this is the way we wrapped up. I think this is how we wrapped up Midnight Mass, where we started doing two at a time, two episodes at a time. That's how we did the last two episodes of Midnight Mass. You and I will be doing the last two episodes here tonight for first season of Penny Dreadful, and then for any seasons, I think in the future, just for the sake of brevity. I'd like to maybe just do two at a time. It saves time. What could be done in 8 weeks can now be done in 4. They're not exceptionally long episodes, so yeah, that kind of would work. Hold on a second.
Give it to him.
We got, let's see who's in the house. We got Castellar Daniel Garcia. Love this series, the Universal Monster Universe. Yes, somebody had the fantastic idea of putting all the Universal monsters together in a completely original story that is not original at all. It's like a offshoot of Dracula and Frankenstein. Hold on a second. He says, surprise, it only lasted 3 seasons, and the season 4 was done with the Mummy in comics. So I would have liked to have seen what they did with the Mummy in season 4. I don't want to give away too many spoilers because Gorphobe is seeing all this for the first time, so I don't want to start to get into second and third seasons. There's another character that we get to see an inkling of in season 3, when things end. But we'll get to that in time if we continue with this. We've had some time away. What did you think of the final 2 episodes? Let's just, what say you?
I definitely enjoyed them. Episode 7 is called Possession, it's definitely that. And then you got episode 8, which is Grand Guignol, which I renamed it the Rejection of Dorian Gray.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think is a much more fitting title for it, because that's something you've never seen before, and of course he had never seen before, which I think is paramount in this.
Yes, and we're going to be seeing some. Well, if we go through to season 2, there'll definitely be some more of Mr. Gray in the future. He's becomes an important part of the series in an offshoot sort of thread. He says season 2 is set up nicely. Season 1 was a good vampire confrontation. Yeah, tons and tons of vampires. Vampires are the antagonists here. But we start out in this episode with Vanessa, and she's been possessed. And it's actually quite an ugly episode. It's pretty awful. It's very dark. It seems to go on for a very, very long time. I like the way that they handled the episode, in that they just sort of, they don't count the days in terms of a calendar, but you get the impression that because things are awful, time is moving very, very slowly. All the men come together to try to help Vanessa, and stop her from hurting herself or hurting anyone else. And you just get the impression that they spend an extremely long period of time in that house.
Yes. She's had one hell of a time, man. She just got over one thing, and now we step in here. She seems like she's all right for a minute, after you go back and you see what happened to her, when she was in the hospital and she went through the lobotomy, and and now you come to this, and now she goes through the full possession, and it goes through, and the only person that she can trust is Ethan, and then that's even challenged at one particular point.
Yeah, it starts out with this conversation where she's sitting there with Sir Malcolm on the couch, and she starts talking about all this dark shit. About how there's like a trade, a brisk trade for photographs of dead women. And guys who like get off on that sort of stuff, and you're like, where the hell is this going? And she's talking about how Sir Malcolm's wife is fat, and she's crying all the time, and she's laughing about how, there's nothing quite so funny as watching a fat woman cry. And then it just descends into, bedlam, which basically sets the tone for the rest of the episode until, well, it doesn't happen that way right away, but you can see that, shit's just flying all around the room. And then my man Sembeni comes in and just sort of lays out the pimp hand, and just kind of smacks the daylight out of her, and kind of brings everything to a halt. And I really like that character, Sembeni. We're going to see a lot more of him in the coming seasons, but it kind of sets the tone within the first 5 minutes as to what we're going to be in for. We're in for a mini sort of exorcist kind of episode.
Yeah, I like how. Yeah, I like how they did that too. They, I got a little worried there for a minute. I was afraid they was going to steal a little bit off of it, but they actually ended up doing it quite well.
Yeah, it doesn't bite of any particular, possession movies that I can think of. It's done in its own way. You've got top-notch actors to perform. So if you were to write an original script, you've got Eva Green, you got Josh Hartnett, you got Timothy Dalton, all these other people that are there who can certainly handle it. Even the way that they treat the priest is completely different than what you typically see. The priest is usually the savior in the standard exorcism film. Here he's just treated with complete contempt. They're just like, get the fuck out, get out. If you're not going to help, then, we don't have time for the hierarchy today, or for you to run it up the flagpole, just do it or get the fuck out of here, and, me being, a Catholic myself, it's like, geez, that's a little harsh, but, it was kind of funny, in a sense too, because, they're fed up with everybody. Hold on. Carlos is saying Vanessa. Yeah, it's a very dark character. And extremely well done by Eva Green. Sir Malcolm is a gray area character with tragedy and menace. And we've talked about this many times about how nobody's nice here.
No,
there are good people. Yeah,
the only one who's really a good guy is Ethan. And when the series starts out, you don't even think he is. But as the character develops, you find out that he really does have a really good heart. And I think Brona is the one that helped bring that out of you.
Yeah, I believe that's the case too. But there's a lot of suffering in this episode, and it's done extremely well by Eva Green. Just in the physical discomfort, whether I can't tell if she's perspiring or she's just, soaking in water. The room that she's in is extremely dark. She always seems like she's in the physical pain. She's in a lot of mental anguish, trying to fight off, whatever it is that's inside her, that's getting a grip on her. It's tough to watch. It's probably the darkest episode of the season, I would say. Now, you and I have had a few weeks off on this, but I mean, coming back and looking at it now, this is probably the darkest episode of the season. It's very rough.
Yeah, I checked it out again because it had been a month, so I wanted to sit through and check it out again and check out my notes along with what I seen before a month ago, and I'd forgotten the part where she's at the corner and doing what I really hate, which is the nails digging at the side, and. I have it on the screen right now. I'm checking it out right now. I got it on the screen and we're talking about it, and I got the notes here.
Okay.
Just to make sure. And yeah, she's digging, and that just drives me crazy because remember, at one point in the early 2000s, every horror movie had this thing where the nails got bent and broke back. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So I kept expecting that to happen, and as there is blood and stuff, there's no nails being broke back, and thank God about that.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it started there, but the most prominent case of that I think of is in Silence of the Lambs, where that woman that's being held by the tooth fairy holds the light up and she sees the nails that are broken off in the fucking
Yeah,
well where people have been trying to climb out. And oh, you're like, oh, that's when she knows she's fucked. You know, she's like, oh, and that's when the major freak out fucking starts.
and she starts screaming, yes.
Yeah, that's what she's trying to keep it together. She's trying to keep it together. She's trying to keep, with the lotion and everything like that. But when that light shines, she sees that blood and the broken nails and you're like, oh shit. And that's the great part about that film because they don't show it happening. You just see the nails
Yeah.
and a little bit of blood, but everybody's mind individually goes to
You
the
are
same
fucked.
place, but a different place.
You are fucked, yeah.
Yeah. She knows she's gone up Shit's Creek. Hold on a second. We got some more comments. A lot of a lot of darkness in this. A lot of darkness, cruelty, self-centeredness. People very much in it for themselves and their own motivations. The past of the characters is complex labyrinth of pain, regret, and suffering. Yep.
Full character development, and it's full character development for everybody.
Yeah, now watching Fright Night 1985. That's always a good one. Hold on, we got Gretchen here. She's saying, hey, what's happening, Gretchen? Thank you for stopping in. We appreciate it as always. The thing of it is that this is the thing that ends up bringing everybody together.
Exactly.
Because this has been a recurring thing where people, have been at odds with each other and a lot of, shouting and yelling and, fuck you and, get it to, this, that, and the other. But when it comes to protecting Vanessa, Frankenstein, Ethan, Sembeni, Sir Malcolm, they all rush to, fill this gap. Yes. And, it's a very old school mentality, that the men are protectors,
and there's a difference. There's a difference. Most of the group is doing it for Sir Malcolm's intentions.
His mission.
Ethan is doing it strictly for her. I kind of wanted to make that point.
Yeah. I don't think that he really is. Although, I think the situation improves. It doesn't start out with Ethan having any real deep affection for Sir Malcolm necessarily. I think he kind of sees Sir Malcolm for what he is, which is kind of a bastard, and a son of a bitch. The way guys can kind of pick up on that kind of thing. This guy's a fucking asshole, at the end of the day, this sort of thing. You have Dr. Frankenstein who just craves some sort of paternal approval.
Right.
He very much wants to be validated as a man, because he knows that those aren't his strong points. Obviously he's off doing his own thing, but when it comes to, being, an old school man, to have someone like Sir Malcolm, validate him and tell him that he's okay. That's very much what he wants, chasing behind this. Sembeni is just kind of Sembeni. He doesn't seem to need much of anybody.
Right.
But,
shit too,
yeah. But, when it comes to Vanessa, they all kind of rally around. And this is sort of, you were the one who brought it up, I think, in the first or second episode. Sir Malcolm's forming a team.
Yeah.
But it doesn't gel. It doesn't gel. They go off and do shit together, but, they don't get on. But this is what ends up bringing the team together.
Yeah.
You end up seeing, Dr. Frankenstein, he's got a bit of a morphine addiction. They touch on that briefly. Also very much this idea that even while they're trying to protect, Vanessa from, the devil, or, whoever it is, the devil, or a devil, or, however you might want to call it, um, he's still very much there in the room.
Right.
And I thought that that was a great scene with Josh Hartnett, where he just very much becomes. You can see that the devil is in the room while the men are outside trying to protect her. He's having this conversation with her in the room. You can't hear anything that's going on from inside, but there's this fight going on. Whether it's happening in Vanessa's mind, she sees him, in her mind's eye through Ethan or whatever. But yeah, that's not Ethan. And I thought that was very well done. They're having this fight and this battle, and he's sort of winning her over. And there's Benny just standing right outside, standing guard, having no idea that any of this is happening.
Yeah, and
while everybody's doing their best.
And we think that it's Ethan too for the longest time, until all of a sudden he switches and becomes very sinister. And she doesn't call him a demon or an entity. She refers to him as Lucifer. She refers to him straight up as the devil, and he doesn't deny that. So I'm not sure if it is in her mind, or if it really is, the devil in Ethan's disguise, or what.
I mean, I believe very much it is the devil, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. I just don't think that I don't know that he's physically it could be something that we're seeing inside Vanessa's head, or some sort of spiritual war. Yeah. I mean,
because that's when the possession really kicks in.
Yeah, and you got essentially a master of the universe there in the bed, so he can pretty much in the bedroom, so he can manipulate it any way that he wants to.
Right.
This idea also, and I love this, where we talk to Dr. Frankenstein. We're seeing Dr. Frankenstein, and just how badly he want. They all want to get out of that. They want to get out of that room. They want to get out of that house. That's just like this very straightforward way of conveying, what's going on in there.
And the whole time, Frankenstein's looking outside, but yet the whole time he's wanting to get out, but yet the whole time the monster's sitting outside looking at the house. So it's like he even if he can get out, he's still got that out there.
I had the impression that, with Frankenstein, and that scene where he looks out the window here and he sees, Caliban outside, I think he would have very much preferred Caliban at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's just like Caliban is like thinking that he's making some threat, and, probably, Frankenstein's like, you have no fucking idea, what's going on in here. This is so far out of, anybody's, realm or ability to, to.
He's just thinking, what the hell are you doing in there? You're supposed to be helping me get a partner, goddamn.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, we also have, a little bit of humor where we get Ethan teaching Frankenstein how to shoot.
Yeah.
Which, huh?
And he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, he's not so bad. They have him downstairs, this, that, and the other, shooting off the six shooter. This is going to be a recurring sort of theme when it comes to Dr. Frankenstein. These sort of alpha male insecurities.
Right.
That sort of insecurity that he's not quite good enough, on the man scale, so on and so forth. I mean, it's basically a good episode. Now, I haven't seen this in a few weeks. Remind me, does Sembeni get into his history? He does, doesn't he?
Not so much. I don't remember getting so much into his history. I remember during that one particular part of the shooting, not so much into his history so much, but he does come down and let them know that that Sir Malcolm is complaining about the noise, and Ethan's like, well, we're getting in trouble with Dad. And then when they come back up, Ethan brings Sembeni a plate of food, and they sit there and they have a discussion about the plate of food. and Ethan discusses with him about where he's been and how he's learned how to cook and stuff like that. And he
Yeah, but
pretty much, and
don't
he
they?
pretty much,
Is this the episode where he says, "I think that Sir Malcolm saved your life, and now you're indebted to him"? Maybe it isn't the episode where you find out what Simbeni's origin is. We'll probably get into that in the second season.
yeah,
But
I don't remember him saying that yet. No.
yeah, but skip past that. We get into one of the darkest fucking scenes where, in the middle of all that, fucking Sir Malcolm comes up to Vanessa and asks her, while she's tied to the bed suffering, to try to find Mina.
Yes.
And you're just like, wow, this guy's a fucking bastard.
Yeah.
Like, in the middle of her, like this ultimate kind of suffering and burning. Hey, while you're down there, why don't you do your fucking job and help find my daughter? And he just tells her, I don't have a shred of decency left.
Yeah, and Ethan's like, you stop trying to manipulate her. You know what I mean? He threatens to rip his throat out.
Yeah, which we find out has a new meaning at the end of the next episode.
Yeah. If I find out this and that, I'll rip your fucking throat out.
Yeah. But I mean, it's consistent, and I like that it stays in the dark that kind of way with Sir Malcolm.
Yeah.
He never like turns into the good guy, or the nice guy.
Yeah, and this also when Victor gives Malcolm that cocaine derivative to stay awake because he's tired. He was like, do you have anything to help me stay awake? And he was like, well, I do have this, and it is a derivative of cocaine, and he decides to take it. So, and then Malcolm admits, hey, I have no decency left.
Yeah, don't have a shred of decency left. I feel that's important because it just shows consistency throughout, and that he is just insistent on doubling down on this. At the end of the day, it's about Sir Malcolm. Sir Malcolm is about Sir Malcolm. He's about finding his daughter. And yeah, he at any opportunity, he can sink a little lower to try to get what he needs.
So at the end of that episode, they're not only have sunk to the bottom in every way. So now half of them have become, they're doing morphine and cocaine and everything else. Now they become full out drug addicts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a little fucking depraved, man. It's a depraved fucking scene going on at party at Sir Malcolm's house. We got the devil, we got cocaine, we got morphine. Probably all the fucking booze you could. Yeah, we got possession.
This way, Ethan's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he was fucking six shooting, at a Wild West show, a month or so ago. And banging some girl, up against a wagon. He was having a good old time. Now he's, neck deep in the devil and vampires. There is one scene I would mention again, and that is when they bring in Father Matthew.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean,
we need a priest. We need to get a priest in here.
Yeah, and he comes up there, and he is clearly out of his depth.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts telling this story. I knew a Matthew once. He was a tax collector. One of the disciples, and they crucified him upside down, and she just ends up biting a huge piece out of his face.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah, it's a hardcore scene. And then, suddenly it just kind of ends. It looks like they're going to have to put her down. And I remember the first time that I saw that, I thought that, that's how it was going to end, that Ethan was going to have to put a bullet in her, just to set her free. But
instead it becomes Father Karras, man. And he's just like,
yeah, he pulls out the medal and just, says the Latin and repeats the verses. And yeah, pulls her out of the...
A lot more to Ethan there's a lot more. I mean, when we first meet Ethan at the very beginning, like you said, he's working at this carnival type thing at this show, and he's just banging this and that, and don't even want to know their names. By the end of this, he's in love. He's he's about the only really decent guy.
Yeah.
And now he's able to dispel demons. You know what I mean? So this brother's got a lot of shit going on. He's got a lot of heart and a lot. He has a true integrity, and that's what it took to get rid of that.
Yeah, and you're slowly but surely scraping, through the layers a little bit more at a time to get to that, and to see that. And we're, if we get to the second season, you explore a lot more of Ethan in depth. You get a lot more into Ethan. We don't find out, obviously, some of the things because, he's shrouded in a lot of mystery until the end of the last episode of this season when there's the big reveal, which we'll get to in a little bit. But there's a lot more than meets the eye with Ethan. And when you get to the second season, then it really fucking blows up, and he's a major player. He's a major player.
What I think is interesting is it didn't take a priest to get rid of that demon or that possession. It took a true man with true integrity, with true heart and true love in his heart to get rid of that demon. I thought that was a total change. That was totally unique.
There's a bit more to it than that, which they get into in the first episode of the next season.
Okay.
There's a bit more than just his integrity that's working for him here. He's got some things going for him. But I mean that kind of brings things to a close for the episode. We see Mina at the end of the episode, and she's saying, "I know where Mina is."
Right.
That's kind of where it ends. You can tell that a significant amount of time has passed, because she's looking a lot more stable. But I mean, it's a rough episode. It's a rough episode. We come into the final episode, and
a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. We're starting off with this idea that Vanessa knows, where she is. And also the realization that Sir Malcolm might not be able to save her, which I think we've touched on briefly before. But I think Sembeni tells him, know what it is you're going to do before. And he says, if I can save her, I will. If I can't, I'll just end her suffering.
Yeah.
I think that slowly but surely he's starting to see, and this came up before at the end of the last episode, where Ethan tells him that you wanted a daughter, there she is.
Yeah.
This is your daughter now. Start fucking acting like it and stop using her, to give up on the daughter that you've probably lost.
Yeah. Well, it's all going to come to head here in this one.
Yeah. Now that brings us back to our buddy, Mr. Gray, who pops in out of nowhere after all this shit, like, hey, how's it going? Everybody. And you can tell, like, it's a really good performance because he goes from being the same person that he is always, and yet somehow in this particular scene, for the first time, we're seeing him on the back foot.
Yeah. Because it's nice to see you. Thanks for coming. But I got things that I have to do. Have a good day.
Yeah, he just seems kind of silly now. He's like, oh, sure, no problem. And if you want to meet me later, I'll be at the greenhouse, that kind of thing. But I mean, yeah, his charm has kind of gone out the window, and he just seems, foolish. He seems foolish
for the first time ever.
Yeah, for the first time. We're also seeing, we're coming back to Brona, and
Mm,
Brona's, and again, the great Billy Piper, the fantastic
mm,
Billy Piper, and Brona is dying.
yeah.
And it's just an awful scene. You can see the rags with the blood on the side, on the floor by the bed. Her pillowcase is just blood, where she's just coughing up. And, like we've talked about this before, how it's this severe sort of respiratory infection that kills you. And I can't imagine coughing yourself to death,
Right. Just
you know?
chunks and pieces of the lung and shit and workload.
Yeah, it's not good. So I mean, she's on her way out, and then we find out that people are. Oh well, we also come into a scene where we see somebody from the past, Madame Callie, and what did? Hold on a second. Patty Lupone. Patty Lupone is and Castellar says Patty Lupone in Penny Dreadful season 2 was marvelous. Uh, we see her, you know, checking out Sir Malcolm there, and you remember her from the seance. Um, you don't know this, but she's going to be a major player in the next season.
Okay.
She was only in it for 10 minutes in that seance season. She's in it for 5 minutes in this episode. She is a major player in the next season, although you wouldn't know it from these. I mean, they're not putting her in there for no reason. But when I
Right.
first saw this, I didn't realize how big of a deal she was going to be in season 2. And it starts right off. Season 2 kicks right off from like the first episode. They're not fucking around. There's no slow build up or anything like that. That brings us back to Caliban.
Well, they,
And the
well, they,
huh?
well, did you get where Brona has has actually died yet? Or I mean,
No, that doesn't happen until
okay.
towards the end.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't happen until towards the end. Um, but we're back, and I wrote this down as I think HR issues in the workplace, because we get the Caliban in the workplace who clearly cannot deal with that woman being nice to him.
Right.
He's so, in this one sense, when it comes to dealing with Frankenstein, he's mean, and he's a murderer, and he's a killer, and, he's just, ultra violent. And I don't forgive him for killing David Warner, who I just thought was, like one of the best parts of this season. I loved seeing him as Van Helsing. I would have loved to have seen more
Yeah,
of David Warner. I mean, because
yeah,
you can never get enough.
my son
Timothy
was the same
Dalton.
way.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton and David Warner in this. I would have loved to have seen them in a scene together. That would have been great. But when you get him, Caliban, that is, in a social setting, he just sinks like a stone.
Yeah.
And, she hands him that orange, and he's so overwhelmed with just the simplest thing. He can break somebody's neck and practically twist their head off. What he did to Mr. Proteus, he ripped Mr. Proteus in half. That was our introduction to him. But these simple sort of conversations are just too much. Or processing something other than hatred and anger.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do. You want to talk about that a little bit? I mean,
Well, yeah, she gives him that orange, and he's really touched by that. And then a little later they talk, she mentions the books and everything, and then they end up talking again. And there was a scene in there that put me in mind of Mice and Men. Of course, it didn't get to that part. It didn't get to that level, but it put me in mind. What I mean, he gets a little overly aggressive with her on it. He gets warned earlier about it, when they're on the stage. But then when that part, the Mice and Men type part happens, and he starts getting a little too aggressive and kind of scares her, then that's the part that reminds me of Vice and Man. Of course, she
Yeah.
gets away. That doesn't happen. But then, that's when Vincent ends up having to tell him, hey, you know what I mean? They're all kind of bitches here, so.
Yeah, but the girl wasn't wrong. I mean,
No.
he kind of forced his way into her room, and then he tried to grab her and kiss her, and he's got that makeup all over his face. And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like I was just,
Right.
I think he let it slip that he had, well, the other guy does this for you. She's like, "How the fuck do you know what he does?"
Right.
So he's he's not.
The creep factor.
He's not keeping it together very well there. We come back, even after all this, Sir Malcolm is talking to Vanessa, and he's like, "Yeah, I would sacrifice you to save my daughter." That's kind of what you're here for. Yeah. Help if you can, but if you gotta go, you gotta go. Sorry, too bad. Yeah. He's a bastard throughout the whole thing. I
think they tried. I think they really tried to make us feel bad for him, but certain things he does really makes it difficult.
He's a very complicated character because he's maybe they all are. They're kind of anti-heroes. And I figure anti-heroes are people who do the wrong thing for what they perceive to be the right reason, which is almost what a villain does. The very best villains are the ones who think they're doing the right thing.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, the very best villains, see them in the movies, they have a reason and a rationale. Yeah.
They're the good guy,
Yeah. Yeah, and these people, all of them, sort of fall into that category. They have justification for everything that they do. They don't care if you don't like it because their logic trumps your hesitation or morality or anything like that. Yes. And so, we come back and I said the bloom is off the rose here. These two are meeting for what seems to suggest will be the last time. Between Mr. Gray and Vanessa, and he's a little heartbroken.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. When he comes, she's in there where they went out the first time there with the flowers and all that kind of stuff, and he thinks that's where they're gonna, the things are gonna. He's actually gonna sweep her off her feet again, and that's when she pretty much says, "Hey." It's basically not going to happen, and he's like, I'm feeling something, and I don't understand what it is, and she's like, it's called rejection,
Yeah.
And you're basically just going to have to deal with it, and she's like, goodbye, Mr. Gray. And then he's just like, a tear. It's like for the first time ever, he has a tear. He doesn't understand what it is or why it is. And that's sad because as long as he's been around.
Well, the thing about Dorian Gray is that he is an immortal. So he's been around for a very long time, and I just think that, the way that he hasn't invested anything in anyone, maybe until he's met Vanessa, and she's just too much for him,
Yeah.
She's kind of, she's got too much going on, and, it's not to work. Now, one of the great twists, and we start to get towards the end of the episode because, it's been a few weeks, and I don't want to spend an enormous amount of time. It's because but we start to get towards some of the twists now. And Brona is dying, and we don't see where this is going. And then all of a sudden, Frankenstein pulls the fucking pillow out and just smothers her. And that's when you realize what's going to happen here.
Yep.
And you're just like, fuck.
I had a suspicion since Frankenstein was taking care of her, and with the way he was acting, and he was like, I'll help you here really soon, and it just seemed to be connecting. But when he did that, I was like, that's what I was thinking.
because I remember we were talking about this, and you said, "Well, he's looking at these young girls in the dance studio. He's not going to pick some kid, is he?" I'm like, "No, he's got something else is going to pop up for him." And yeah, Brona Croft is going to become the bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah. Oh man.
And
how is that going to work?
Man, bro, wait till you see. Have you started the second season at all? Okay. I didn't ask you this. I mean, do you want to continue?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We're not done yet, but for next week, let's do the first 2 episodes.
All right.
Does that work?
And
that'll make your family happy because they can watch 2 episodes instead of 1. Why are we waiting? Why are we waiting another week? That kind of thing, and we can just go from there. Yeah, she's going to become the bride of Frankenstein. That was such a twist. It almost sort of threw me from where, by the time we got to hunting down Mina, that the vampires are there in Frankenstein's theater.
Yes.
They've been in the fucking loft and in the basement, and you're just like, this is fucked.
And he had no idea? Caliban didn't know?
No, it doesn't seem like it. I mean, You're just like...
That's weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not connected in any way to anything outside of his own. He's so self-absorbed.
Right. But he lived there, you know what I mean? It's like, how in the hell did he miss that?
Well, everybody else did too.
Right.
Fucking vampires sleeping in your bats in the belfry. You got the king vampire up there. And yeah, it's pretty fucking ugly. And of course, much like the Stoker cannon, he can't save Mina. So Mina ends up getting put down. And he kind of, Sir Malcolm sort of makes the turn towards at the end of this, and she says, "I'm your daughter," and he just looks at Vanessa and he says, "I have a daughter."
Yeah,
I have a daughter.
Finally shows some kind of love and integrity.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. What else do we have after this? Oh,
Brona going into the liquid into the water.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's going to happen.
Right?
Doesn't
she go into the water? No.
Yeah, you can see that she's going to be. You don't see her yet.
Okay.
But yeah, she's going to become the bride of Frankenstein. But then we get into it with Ethan. And the big reveal with him. And basically, Ethan is being stalked from America.
Oh, yeah. By the 2 men, yes.
Yeah, the Pinkerton men, which are like these, sort of bounty hunters / detectives. Which he bashes and breaks away from once.
They suck.
And then he goes to chase them down. They go to chase him down and find him again, and that turns out to be a fucking mistake.
Right.
Because Ethan is a werewolf.
Yeah, Mr. Kid's one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Werewolf. Yeah, man. I was like, whoa.
Warren Roper and Mr. Kidd. Now, Warren Roper is going to be a recurring character in next season also.
Yeah.
And so, well, he kind of puts the beat down on them. Now, we end. The story sort of ends.
Fucking kills him.
Huh?
He fucking kills him and wakes up the next day and everybody's tore the fuck up.
Oh yeah, that whole bar. He just fucking ripped that whole bar to shit. which is again not something that's going to be brushed off in the next season.
Right.
We're going to be getting into that. But then we come to the final scene of the episode and the final scene of the season, which is where Vanessa finally works up the nerve to enter the church.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts to talk to this Irish priest, I think he is. I think he's Irish. And he starts to tell this story because she starts to reveal that there are issues with possession as it applies to her. She's asking for help. The father tells her, well, you know, it could take months. It's not like The Exorcist where it takes place in like, you know, an hour or something like that. It could take, you know, months. Yeah. It could take years. You know, it may not work. He tells that horror story where the boy ended up dying, right. You know, with the exorcism that he participated in. And, you know, no one found God. You know, it was actually quite awful with a very dissatisfying ending. Are you sure you want to go through with this? And he says something that's quite interesting. He says, you know, your particular predicament is kind of like being touched by the backhand of God.
Yeah.
You know, are you sure you want to? Are you sure you want to give that up?
Yeah. You really want to be normal.
Yeah. Do you really want to be normal?
Yeah.
You know,
is an interesting question.
Yeah, you know, he talks about, you know, the glory, because, you know, through the Christian lens, you know, suffering can be a glorious thing for the right reasons. Right. For the right reasons. You know, needless suffering is, you know, just that, needless. Right. But, you know, this type of suffering is, you know, may not necessarily be as awful as you think it is in terms of the big picture, maybe the things she can't see. And he points that out to her at the end. You know, are you sure this is what you want, you know, to get rid of this thing? You know, it's not necessarily
bad thing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily as awful or just, you know, completely awful. It might be, you know, a little bit of a there might be some blessing in there as well.
Now, if you can turn it around and get rid of your inner demons, you can turn it into a good thing.
That's sort of the idea, yeah. And that's kind of how it ends, you know. You know, I think she kind of makes. I think she walks out of the church, you know, without going through the, you know, the exorcism. Or starting that process, you know, to just kind of accept who she is, you know, and this is sort of my proverbial cross to bear, and you know, that's just the way things are.
Season-ending cliffhanger. Will she or will she not? Yeah.
Well, you know, it's not a. There's I think that the big cliffhangers for the season are Billie Piper as the Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah. I think Ethan as the werewolf, definitely a cliffhanger. You know, we're curious about what's going to happen with Vanessa, but I thought the way that the season ended for Vanessa was kind of satisfying.
Yeah.
You know, she's, you know, if it had ended with her, you know, like some sort of white picket fence, you know, that sort of thing, you would have been like, okay, this feels a little, you know, disingenuous. But, you know, she just sort of accepts that, you know, this is where she is in life. And, you know, this is, you know, what her life is, you know, like. And it's not all bad. Yeah, it's not all bad. Yeah. You know, and, you know, there's some resolution, you know, between her and Sir Malcolm, because we know that had a very sordid history, which she did contribute a lot to. You know, banging Mina's, you know, fiance. You know, this, that, and the other. Yeah, I thought it was a satisfying ending to the season.
She went full circle, and now she's heading toward a more positive resolution. Yeah.
So, I don't know. What did you think of the seasons? I mean, did you enjoy it? I mean, did it let you down at any point? Could it have been better?
No, I totally enjoyed it. There's a couple times where I thought it might, like I said, the exorcism I was worried about, and it didn't go the regular way I thought that it was going to go with the contortion and all that shit. I was so glad it didn't do that.
Crawling up the wall, and yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so sick of that shit. Um, it didn't go that way, which I was glad. It was short and sweet, and it was short but rough. That was cool. It didn't continue on with dumb bullshit. Um, Ethan, it explained why Ethan has the power that he has. Um, um, it led up and showed who was going to be that bride. It also one thing that we didn't talk about was the monster just basically giving up and saying fuck it, just fucking shoot me, and
Yeah.
him having that gun and getting ready to shoot him, and him deciding no, he's what I have. I'm just going to support him. I'm not going to kill him.
Yeah, he's my creation. Sort of my offspring. That sort of thing.
That's one thing that we forgot to talk about, because remember he got that gun Frankenstein had.
Yeah.
And he knew he had it. He's basically telling him, pull the trigger, put me out of my misery.
Yeah.
And he decided not to. No, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to give you this bride.
Yeah. There's some resolution here between many of these characters. Some sort of peace. Even after he murders Dr. Van Helsing, he just has. I think he realizes, that the monster is his responsibility. He brought it into the world, and it's miserable, and it wants to die, and that's his fault.
Yes,
that's Frankenstein's fault.
It's his cross to bear, so he needs to take responsibility and try to do what he can to make what's bad good, to make what's wrong right,
to make it better, at least.
Yeah,
to make it better for him. So, in order to do that, he has to murder someone,
right? Which he's fucking himself up worse, and he's damning his soul a little more with murdering her, because even though she was dying, she wasn't dead, so that's still murder.
It's still murder.
In order to give him something, because he put himself in a position where he has to do something for him.
Right, and it's ironic is that he has to make the same mistake to make up for the first mistake.
Yeah.
He has to commit the exact same mistake to make up for the first one.
Right.
It's a hell of a thing. All right. So overall, not just these episodes. You thought the season was solid?
Oh yeah. Really good show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff. All right. So I basically feel the same way. This is something that I rewatch every couple of years. I'll just start over again, because it's just dark and it's moody and it's, everything, most of the things are taking place at night. Everybody's an adult. There are no teenage girls, and none of the horror cliches, final girls, this, that, or the other. It's got a great story. It's got top-notch performers. So, yeah, I'm happy about the whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does.
Look forward to season 2. And you got my whole family, got my whole immediate family checking it out with me and waiting for it too. So.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Good. All right. So next Sunday, we will be here kicking off season 2 of Penny Dreadful. The first 2 episodes. So we'll get 2 down. And I think there are only 8 episodes per season, so we can knock it out in half the time. And yeah, let's just pick it up where we left off. Let's get it going. And this season does not disappoint. Kicks right off with the action right away on a completely on some new threads, and then continuing some of the old threads because the vampire situation has been the Mina situation has been addressed.
Okay.
The Mina situation has been addressed. Okay. All right. I guess this is as good a place as any to wrap it up. Was there anything that we did not discuss that you wanted to get into about this?
The only thing that we hadn't mentioned was the whole gun thing, and and we talked about that. So no, I guess about it. I think we covered it.
All right. Plug something. Let us know what you're doing this week.
I'm back full time again. After my almost month hiatus, I'm back. I did my 2 year anniversary. Oh, I want to tell you personally live here. Congratulations on your 300. Well earned, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And right back at you here in this stream. We talked on your stream, but you also
Cool.
shooting past 300. Good for us. Good for us.
Cool. Thank you. And your second channel, everybody check out his second channel, where he's doing like an audiobook thing. He's doing the Dumb Butch Horror and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Also, tomorrow night I'll be doing watch along / commentary / discussion / community chat on Dario Argento's Suspiria, and then Tuesday night I'll be back with for the horror of it show I'm doing with Ocean Chicks Films at 10 p.m. Tuesday night on The Dentist with Corbin Burnson. It's crazy.
Oh God, fucking Corbin Burnson.
That is a crazy fun show.
Whenever I think of Corbin Burnson, all I ever think of is Major League.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, that fucking movie, Dorn. Even you, Dorn.
But if you've ever seen The Dentist, he does crazy fun horror. So if you ever get a chance, you haven't seen it, check it out. It is fun as hell. So I'm doing that Tuesday night with her, and then after that, we'll be back here next Tuesday starting season 2.
Okay. Next Sunday.
Yep.
Next Sunday. Okay. All right. So for this channel, we're finishing this up right now. I'll be back tomorrow night on Frank's channel, The Harsh Truth. We're going to be doing the Evil Dead Rise review and discussion, just talking about it. Did you see the Evil Dead Rise?
I haven't seen it yet.
It's fucking good, man. It's fucking. I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting anything, and I was loving it. So we'll be doing that tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on Frank's channel. Tuesday night, I'll be doing an interview with Japanese film director Toshi Asaka. And Toshi Asaka is based out in Tokyo, and he specializes in samurai films, which are one of my all-time favorite genres of film. And he just came up with a new film, a new award-winning film called The Samurai. And it's available on Amazon Prime, so I'll be talking to Toshi again. It'll be good to have him back on the show. On Wednesday, Eric and I are going to kick off a new series, which is either going to be season 1. We haven't decided yet, or Eric hasn't decided yet. I'm good with either. Season 1 of Fox's series, The Exorcist. If you haven't seen it, the one with Gina Davis.
I've seen most of the first season.
That fucking rips, man. That's some serious fucking Exorcist shit. Or we're going to be kicking off season 1 of Hannibal with Mads Mikkelsen, which is just one of the great fucking horror series. It's just this beautiful fucking thing that just could have been the biggest fucking turd. And they just, it's just diamonds. It's just 24 karat. It's priceless.
We talked about doing that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we do The Exorcist, then we can come back and do Hannibal. We'll see how it plays out. And then on Thursday in the afternoon, I'll be doing a review of a movie that I haven't seen yet. I'm going to be watching movies all fucking week. I have a lot of catching up to do with my movies. Called Lake Mungo, which is supposed to be the scariest movie you haven't seen. And I'll be doing that with Julia. With Morgan Scorpion, Julia over in the UK. You've seen it?
Yeah. I like Mungo.
Okay, so that's my Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Counting today, 5 streams this week. Gonna be really busy, but it's good. And so you and I will be back next Sunday. 2 episodes, Penny Dreadful. Cool. My thanks to the Gorephobe for sticking it out, and we're going to keep it going on, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, take care, everybody.
Cool.
Later, Gators.